Morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. The show is produced and broadcast from the Portland, Oregon, USA location. For your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is we've decided to talk about. And this evening we'll be talking about making it a great day, making it a great day. And Paul Spindell is my repeat guest. He's been on a couple times before talking about making it a great day and related subjects. And when I'm with Paul, I remember somewhere or other in our conversation, he's just so connected with his eyes and his presence until I forget I've got a script I'm supposed to follow. And we end up just BSing all over the place. And it works out well.
It's okay.
How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Formally shake your hands. Yeah, it's good to see you again. I'm sure we'll have a good time. And as the time has gone by, you have gotten handsomer.
Thank you.
And I don't go overboard with my compliments because I want you to believe me when I say that, yeah. It probably is because you have white hair like me. Mm-hmm. Never mind.
I think we're brothers.
All right. And as you viewers out there know, the show goes in two major segments. The first segment is what I call the bio segment, the Who Are You segment, where I talk to Paul about who he is. Now, you've gone through this a couple times in the past, but it's been a while. And then people see this show and they haven't seen the earlier two shows or either one of them. So let's do the whole thing all over again, where I ask you about where you came from and all that kind of stuff. So can we do that?
Sure.
Yeah. And as you know, if I ask you a question that you're the one to answer, you don't answer it. You can tell me to go to hell. Oh, no.
Something like that.
It's always a good time. So let's start with who are you? And the trick question. Do you remember I ask a trick question where you don't expect it?
Yeah, surprise me.
Okay. If I were to ask your best friend, who is Paul? What would your best friend say? Be your best friend. Paul is what?
I could give you his phone number. Can we do a...
No, I want you to be him. Now he's going to start. He's going to start before we get started. Paul is...
I think he would say a good friend. You know, I have two really, really close friends. Unfortunately, neither of them live here in Portland. And so the long distance relationships are one that I keep working on. I mean, even though they're long distance, I try and see them when I can, but I communicate regularly with them in a lot of ways, and I try and be there for them. So I think they would say that about me, that I'd be a good friend.
Yeah, you're a good friend. Paul is a good friend.
Yeah.
Anything else they'd say about you?
Well, actually, one of them just said something to me, and that is, he said, you speak your mind, and I've always appreciated that. And that was a great compliment.
He said, Paul speaks his mind?
Right.
I'm going to put you into the first person.
Yes, Paul speaks his mind, and I appreciate that about Paul. And so that's a great compliment.
Yeah. How long have you been speaking your mind?
Wow. You know, you go through phases, right? I think I've been speaking, you know, what's going on for me for a long time, but you go through phases where maybe you don't do it as well as you have in different situations, but I try and keep coming back to it. Okay. I call it speaking my truth.
Speaking your truth.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Not speaking the truth, mind you, because there's a lot of truths out there.
You see, most of the stuff you say, there's so many things we can take off with and keep going in that direction. That's why it's delightful to talk with you, because I never know what I'm going to get, you know, no pat answers. And when and where were you born?
I was born on April Fool's. 1957, so I recently turned 59, in Binghamton, New York, outside Binghamton, New York. Mm-hmm. And I came out 2 months early so I could be born on April Fool's. It's true, so thought it was a great day.
Next trick question, we get both of them out of the way.
Okay.
Why were you born?
I think there was an adventure waiting outside my mother's womb. It's like, let's go, man, let's start this journey. So I came out early and have been trying to experience what I can experience along the way. You know.
Has it been a good journey?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think for anybody, there's all sorts of, you have your good days, you have your other days. And you learn from them, and you try and make the best of them, and you know that there's more good days. And so,
Yeah.
I'm truly blessed. I think the journey's been a good ride.
Who blessed you?
Oh, I think the universe, I think, I don't know that there's any one person or something, but I think just whatever powers exist in the universe have given me a lot of opportunities, and life's been pretty good. Continues to be.
You have a tranquil look in your eyes. You aware of that?
Thank you.
Do you meditate?
Not nearly as much as I should, or I'd like to.
Yeah.
But I try and come from a peaceful place as often as I can.
And that fairly often?
Yeah. There's an expression I heard, I guess it's part of a song, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me.
Yeah. Just hanging out with you for the first 5 minutes, I can see what you're talking about.
So,
It begins
try
with
that.
you.
Doesn't always work, right? I mean, it's, every moment is another opportunity, so.
Yeah. How about, is there anything worth telling the viewers about your racial or cultural heritage that would be of use for them to know?
No, well, I mean, not really. I don't think racial or cultural. I grew up, started in New York, and then down to the D.C., Northern Virginia area, and so I grew up on the east side of the country, and I think there's a lot of stuff that came from that, survival kinds of stuff. And then you come out here to Oregon, and it's a totally different world.
But you're still just a white boy. You don't have anything
I am.
else in you.
I am.
No
I'm a
red
white
or
guy.
no black or anything.
And I have to share with you, I mean, one of the things I've been struggling coming to grips with over the last few years, and we could talk a whole nother time about this sometime, is coming to grips with my white privilege. There's no question that I have been blessed with so many things, some attributed to the fact that I'm a white guy.
Really?
And so I used to believe that, when people were talking about white privilege, they must be talking about somebody else.
Yeah.
And I have to own that one too.
Who wrote the book recently about white privilege? Remember his name?
No, sir.
It's a great book.
That's a trick question.
Great book. No, it isn't. I'm through with the trick questions. Do you have a religious preference nowadays?
No, sir.
Uh-huh. Did you ever have one?
No, sir.
Mm-hmm. Would you characterize your religious preference as being spiritual?
We did do this on another show.
I know, that's why I'm asking.
We went down a long road about that. I think there's a spiritual being in me, and there's so many amazing things that go on in the world that I don't know if it can be explained in a non-spiritual way. So I just think there's a lot of good.
Feel like?
It's a connection, it's a connectedness, that we're all together. We are together with the earth and the sky and the creatures and fellow man, and that connectedness to me, I try and use it to help me drive my behavior in my relations with people and the earth and the creatures. From a place of connectedness.
Yeah, I think I know where you're coming from, and I think there are times when I feel more spiritual than others, for want of a better word to describe something that occurs.
Right.
And I'm aware that I'm different now, at least in this moment or these few moments. And I've had a lot of time to practice this, so I have a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. If you can think of one first, or shall I lay one on you?
Go ahead.
Hi, Mike. We're about to cry waiting for you. When I'm fortunate enough and I'm just in the right frame of whatever it is, and I see a little baby in the shopping cart, and the baby looks at me and catches my eye, or I catch the baby's eye, and it doesn't matter how young or old the baby is, and there's a connection, and I sense it. And there's something that happens in my whole being. and mom or dad doesn't even know baby and I are talking to each other with how we're looking at each other. And I sense it. And that's probably one of the most rewarding experiences in my, and I look for those moments when they happen. Or if I see a dog, a puppy, beyond just a dog, and that puppy has a special connection, because I love all dogs and animals anyhow. But those are rare. And let me lay a third one on you. I had a client, and I have a practice as a counselor, psychotherapist, and she was very, very old and very fragile and very weak. And when she left my front door, she walked the bottom of my steps and she turned around and looked at me and waved, because she was very old, could hardly walk. And she crossed out to the street and turned around and waved to me again. And then she'd cross the street, going to a bus stop, because she takes public transit. One last time she turns and waves again, and I'm watching her, and she's so beautiful. And then as she walks away toward the bus stop, she's got a bag in each hand. She always carries us luggage, and she's swinging them like a little girl. The third one.
Wow.
So those are spiritual experiences.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
You can't quite explain them, or you can't quite understand them in a way or whatever, and sometimes I just say, thank you, Spirit. I might be hiking somewhere and I might think, gosh, I'd really love to see some creatures. And I go around the next turn and there's a deer standing there looking at me.
Really?
And I'm like, okay, thank you, Spirit.
Okay.
I put that energy out there. I say, wouldn't it be great if? And sure enough, that happens. And so I just go, okay.
Then it's time to put this thing away and don't use it anymore.
Right.
Be available for when those things occur.
And have some freedom in your head that you can see them when they're happening. Say, aha.
Yeah.
And I'll just smile. I go,
Yeah, enough of that. Yeah. And how about your formal education? How much school, what kind of school did you do?
My last degree was a master's degree in organizational behavior. They used to call it industrial psychology. I think they mostly call it organizational behavior now, at the University of Maryland in College Park. And I'd gone to James Madison University before that in Virginia. Had a communications degree and a minor in business. So that's some of the formal side of things, I guess.
How about other education? Anything comes to mind?
Oh yeah. Well,
I knew I was going to get an oh yeah.
Man. Well, gosh, if we rely on solely formal education to be our education, we're done at whatever 22 years old or so when we get done with our degree, or and stuff like that, or 26 with master's degree or something. Every day. One of the things I have to share with you, I don't always sleep as well as I could.
Yeah.
Because my head is always working on learning stuff and thinking about things and analyzing things and trying to figure out how to do that, differently. That conversation I had with somebody or something like that. So, to me, that's one of the joys of life, is trying to be better every day, trying to learn from stuff and do it differently and learn from that. So that's, to me, is just some tremendous. I've had the opportunity to meet some very wise people who tell me things that hopefully some of it resonates in here, and then I can recall things. And
name a few of those wise people that you've met and they caused you to do this kind of thing you just described, waving your hand around.
Well, there's a place I've gone to a couple of years in a row for a week each time, in the high desert of New Mexico, where there's an intentional community and a Peruvian shaman, and spent some time with him in the desert. And one of the things that he talked about was, give every difficult decision 4 days.
4 days
to think about.
Did he say anything more about what that means, the 4 days?
Well, so often we react. Something happens, we react.
Yeah.
Something happens, we react. Oftentimes those reactions are not very positive. don't serve us well. It's really not grounding ourselves with who do we want to be in this situation and how do we want to be in this situation, and sometimes it takes as long as 4 days. Now, so often we don't have that much time, right? But even just the concept of that, of stopping to breathe and give yourself a chance to think about what state of being, another expression, right? What state of being you want to bring to this experience is helpful.
Yeah.
So that would be one example.
So you have some life experiences that are in addition to your formal education.
Yes, sir. Don't we? I mean, I would think we all do.
When are you going to write your memoirs?
When?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a writer. I'm maybe a storyteller at times in my life, so I would guess I would have to tell the stories and let somebody else write that.
I bet you got some nice stories.
I hope so.
You're still earning a living, working?
Sure.
What are you doing?
Sure. I work for myself as a management trainer, team building, leadership development, supervisory training. A lot of work with companies, really on that what I call the human side of employment and how we can all learn to be better with each other in workplaces and do that. So I do that with a lot of my time. I also teach in the Center for Executive and Professional Education at Portland State University. And I teach a number of different courses with that group, and I enjoy that relationship. They also hire me out to companies to do specialized training for different companies around those topics. So I like a lot of that. And even our topic tonight is one that I've, I kind of blend into a lot of the classwork that I do. So I like that because it makes me smile. And to me, that's speaking my truth. That's being authentic and bringing some of the things that are important to me into the classroom. So.
You're very fortunate or something or other, because it sounds like you really like what you're doing.
Oh yeah, for the most part I do. And again, I am blessed. I have enough work to take care of my expenses, if you will. I also have the opportunity to not work with clients where I don't think there's a good match. I get to turn down business, and I'm very blessed in that way that so many of us, and I did when I first started, feel trapped to either work for a company that we don't quite align with, or to do work we don't quite align with. And I'm getting better and better now and more able to opt out of those situations. So.
What do you mean by getting better and better? How? What does that mean?
Back to the spirituality thing, I guess I'm continually believing in the abundance in the world, and that I don't need to do the work with your company if we don't align, and I'll probably find enough other work to be okay. and that's a positive thing about the abundance that goes on in this world. So,
do you have a partner, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend?
Well, if you have one, you shouldn't have a number of those others. So
I gotta be politically correct here. Don't leave it off.
But I mean, if I am married to a lovely lady, and so I shouldn't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or any other relations with that. It would just get complicated, and I wouldn't be as peaceful as I am today, right?
No,
no, I'm married, a lovely lady named Tonya, and she and I have known each other for, I think we just hit 15 years of knowing each other, so it's starting to be a long time, and I'm happy every day I get to go home to see her.
Any kids?
We have 3 together. One daughter came from my side, and 2 daughters came from her side, and so we have 3 daughters, and they bring with them everything that kids bring to your life.
And that means a lot.
Right. I mean, anybody who has kids knows, right, that there's the whole gamut of things that could be included in that. A lot of laughter, some tears, a little of all of that. So.
They're fortunate to have you as a dad.
Well, thank you. That's another compliment. You're giving me some compliments tonight. I appreciate that.
And straight out, real.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, your political persuasion, are you left, right, center, or are you a do-gooder? I'm a do-gooder. That's my political party.
Tell me what that means so I know whether I should be one or not, or whether I am one.
You are one.
What does that look like to you?
Bottom line, all things considered, is my behavior and my relationship with life and living things is doing good.
Yes.
As simple as that.
And so how does that relate to your political persuasion?
I'm off the chart. Using some of the old classic terms like progressive and liberal, and those have been so muddied through the years of what they really mean, talking about the original meanings.
Right.
To loving, and getting out of my own way of being loving toward another human being or other life. And I even get kind of ridiculous. In the kitchen, I see there's a little spider on the wall, and I'm looking around to see where my wife is, because if she's not around, I can take him out and put him outside.
Catch him. These cups work really good. You can take them and put it over them, and then you slide a little cardstock in there, and then they're in the cup, and then you just get them outside, and they'll do that.
Well, that may be a bit of an exaggeration, but that's my kind of thinking. So that doing good, and particularly doing good for fellow human beings. And it troubles me sometimes, because I get sort of depressed if I linger too long thinking about what's happening in Africa and what's happening in my country's behavior on the world scene, how we're treating other human beings. And so that's what doing good means for me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think, I would agree with that, God, if we just think about the concept of community and how we can be in community with everything, with our fellow human beings, with the earth, with the other creatures, I think that brings a lot to the forefront. You asked about politically, if I just look at people's, this whole thing that's been going on for a while now in our country with the elections and campaigns and everything. That could keep me up at night too, spinning on all that stuff. But if I look at somebody who speaks to my heart the most, it would be feeling the burn. I mean, again, if you look at community, right? So we're talking about, college education is for free, healthcare for all. I mean, if you go down the line of, economic distribution, if you will, not just held to the 1%. So if you look at a lot of the concepts that he espouses, and I'm not saying he would be an effective president, because we have such limitations with Congress and dealing with all that, right? But the ideas that he has speak to my heart, because they're based on community and that we're all in this together, which is not how a number of other candidates choose to talk about that whole thing.
I'm not sure Bernie Sanders is spiritual, but I can't think of anything else to describe him as, because he seems real. Right. What he says, and he's careful not to go overboard with what he's saying, and he still connects with a lot of people on another level other than the intellectual level, if I may.
So here's a spiritual thing, right?
Okay.
So I don't know, in relation to the burn, and it happened in Portland, so I couldn't picture a better place for it to happen. When he came to speak here, and he was speaking at the Moda Center, and a bird came and landed on the lectern.
I saw that.
And like in the middle of thousands of people, this bird came and landed on the lectern and didn't go away. Like didn't just freak out and go away, but stayed there. That's a spiritual thing, that just doesn't happen.
Did you see the connection between the bird and Bernie?
Yeah, I mean, they interacted with each other.
You saw that too?
Yeah. On the video. I wasn't there, but I saw that.
I know.
And I'm like, how cool is that? How cool is that? I think the bird felt the burn. I mean, and some other candidates probably would have tried to shoot it. Whatever. So you probably shouldn't get me started on all that kind of stuff. I could go down a road there.
I can too.
Yeah.
So, where are you? I think I know where you are. You didn't say anything more. What's the difference between sympathy and empathy? Is there a difference between the two?
I look at a difference between the two, and I think part of it is feeling your pain, if you will. I can feel sorry for you, might be sympathy. Empathy is let me understand what this means to you. What are you feeling? What's really going on for you? not making it about me, but really just trying to understand from your point of view what you're feeling about this issue. So often we try and make it about ourselves, right? We say, oh, well, this happened to you? Well, that happened, oh, your mom just passed away. Oh, well, my mom passed away too. I know how you feel. Mm-hmm. Really? That's not very empathetic. It's not really connecting with you to say. It would be different if I said, why don't you help me understand what your mom's passing has meant to you? That would be more empathetic.
Yeah. And for me to attempt to feel like you're feeling at this moment as you tell me that, and to see in your eyes that you are aware that I am trying to feel the pain or the anger that you're experiencing right now, so you're not alone.
Right.
And I had an argument with a friend of mine about the differences between those two, and somehow or other she threw in compassion. And then for 2 or 3 days I was fitting those in, and then I thought, if I'm truly empathetic as I just described, then compassion will be automatic because I want to do something other than share your feeling. Yeah.
I'll think about that too.
Thank you. You're so honest. And this is you, man. This is the kind of stuff you're involved with, the kind of work you're doing. And thanks for allowing me to spring that on you, my view of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'm still learning these little additions or modifications to my own thinking.
Right. I mean, it took me till I was 57 or almost 58 when I was exposed to really trying to understand the difference between jealousy and envy, and being envious, and how different those are. And I think for the first 57 years of my life, I was using the word jealous incorrectly.
Give me some more.
Well, as and I may get this wrong, but jealousy is I'm afraid that I'm going to lose what I had, that you're going to potentially take something that I have, and I'm going to. Envious is I'm just wishing I had what you had. Right, and those are different. And so sometimes when I've always said I'm jealous, I'm probably more envious.
Okay. I hadn't considered it that way
So,
either.
I mean, even so back to sympathy, empathy, it may take us till we're 60 or whatever to try and figure out what that really means to us and how that impacts our lives. And
yeah, when this is over this evening, I'm sure what we talked about and how we visited is going to linger with me, because it's always good sharing our realities with each other.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Memberships in political, social, or civic organizations. Do you have any kind of memberships worth mentioning for the viewers to know about? Yeah.
Sure. I think the one that, some of the ones that speak to me the most, and I don't know if it's a membership, but I work with the Pachamama Alliance.
Yes.
It's an organization out of the Bay Area. And
say a few more words about that.
And one of the things that I do through it is do workshops called Awakening the Dreamer, Changing the Dream. And it's about environmental sustainability, social justice, and spiritual fulfillment. Somebody once proposed those 3 things to me, and I said, wow, that seems right up my alley. People all around the world are doing those workshops. And so I've been connected to, in whatever ways that is, the Pachamama Alliance for a number of years now, 8, 9 years probably.
Where did that start, in Spain or in South America?
Well, the Pachamama Alliance, and Pachamama means Mother Earth.
Yes.
So the Alliance started with some people who were in the Bay Area who had gone to Ecuador and spent some time with indigenous people in Ecuador, and had in getting to know them and understanding what was happening in the degradation of their country, and oil companies doing a lot of nasty things down there and everything. One of the expressions that one of the people from the Bay Area said was, "What can we do to help you?" And one of the indigenous elders said, "Well, what can we do to help you? Because you guys are the ones that are messing all this up."
There's a deep depth there.
Yeah, and well, the reality, I mean, it's the modern world, if you will, that's causing so many problems. And so they came back with that idea and launched this program called Awakening the Dreamer, Changing the Dream, with the idea that we want to awaken the dreamers in us, in all of us, in this modern world, but get us to look at changing our dream away from one of consumerism, consumption, bigger, more, all that kind of thing that doesn't seem to be serving us very well. it's what we've all been raised on, you know, and so how do we shake that loose? So anyway, so that organization is one that speaks very much to me. There's certainly a lot of local groups here that are doing wonderful things around environmental sustainability and social justice. There's a local group, CAC, it's Climate Action Coalition. It's a coalition of a number of groups here in the Portland area, working to try and end the dominance of fossil fuels in our world and try and help us deal with that. And I've done some work with them and some of the groups that make that coalition up, and includes 350 PDX and a number of other groups. So yeah, I get caught up in a lot of those kinds of things and consider myself an activist in many occasions.
You could be the second member of this new political party. Do-gooders.
Do-gooders, the do-gooder party. Yeah, well, and of course the interesting thing would be do-good is in a lot of people's perception, right? What is doing good in different, you know, people? So we'd have to find the people who have similar values about what doing good is. Is doing good opening our doors to immigrants from other countries or not? Mm-hmm. You know, and different people would have different opinions
we
about
can
that.
parse it out to justify our opinions.
Thank you. Yeah,
but I think you and I know what we mean by that.
That we're do-gooders, right?
Oh, one more question before we take a break, before they yell at me again. Persons from the past or alive today, one or two names that you particularly look up to or looked up to or admire. I've been doing this a long time, so I've got a half a dozen at the top of my head, but I want to lay those on you.
Yeah.
Who do you think fits in that category?
You know, I got to tell you, so I believe that years from now, people will look back at the Obama presidency and recognize that Barack was one of the greatest presidents we've ever had, and that he and his wife lived through some very difficult times with an extreme amount of class. And I'm just sad that they had to put up with all of what they put up with. Mm-hmm. But I just honor them. I mean, I look up to them as you know, I don't always agree with everything that he's done.
Sure.
But I just really respect the class of which he's gone through this presidency and the way he and his wife have carried themselves. So those are two people. If I go back many years, my mom happened to know Pete Seeger. And I had the opportunity to meet Pete Seeger, and I mean, here was a guy who was talking about environmental activism long before anybody even knew what the heck that was about. Uh-huh. And so, you know, he had the sloop, the Clearwater, going up and down the Hudson River, trying to talk about cleaning up the Hudson, when that kind of thing wasn't talked about. You know, so I hear a lot of his songs. I think about a lot of his songs, and a little shout out, his birthday is actually coming up pretty soon, so a little shout out to Pete Seeger.
You betcha. Our eyes the same color. They're close, aren't they?
I don't know, I can tell you, I can see your color. I don't know if I can see my color, so. They're beautiful eyes, we'll go with that. Right?
It takes one to know one.
Thank you.
Mike. Okay, let us take a break here before I get yelled at again. We'll be back in a couple minutes, so we're taking a break now. You ready, Mr. E, Mr. Director? Okay, we're back. And Paul and I were going on and on and on. The camera should have been on us. And for your viewers who missed the opening of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of 1 hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there and like Paul about who he is and about whatever it is we have decided to talk about. And we're talking about making it a great day, and we'll eventually get to that because we've been chewing the fat about other things in spirituality and whatever.
So much.
It's so delightful when we start going, we can go on for hours and hours and hours. So let's go with, now we were deciding how to title this particular show, and the question was, shall we title it Making It a Great Day or Awakening the Dreamer, Changing the Dream? So I've got a few questions under each category.
Okay.
So I'll lay one on you and you can take off, and here we go.
All right.
What does making it a great day really mean to you? Maybe you said a few words about that earlier.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. And by the way, I want to call out our little visual here that make it a great day. I believe that we have choices so often during a given day, even from moment to moment, about how we choose to be. And absolutely things can happen in our lives that we didn't want to have happen, traffic or noise, there's a myriad of things, right? But the key is, how do we choose to respond to those? And we can allow some things that happen in our lives to put our cranky pants on, get us depressed, get us angry, whatever. I think a lot of that are choices. And so it's been years now, and I don't even remember how exactly it came to be where I heard this. I didn't make it up. I can't take credit for being the first person to say make it a great day. But it spoke to me because to me it's an intentional way of being. It's creating intention for making it a great day rather than the passive way of saying have a nice day. Like I'm going to sit around and hope something good happens to me today so that I can have a nice day.
So there's something I can do to make it a great
Absolutely. day. Absolutely. It's a conscious, intentional thing that takes action to make it a great day.
A great hour, a great minute,
moment.
or a great moment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Choosing to come be with you on the show is making it a great day for me. It's a choice. I know that that every time I interact with you, I have a good time. I enjoy that. I wish for more. So to me, that's part of making it a great day. So why wouldn't I say yes another opportunity I had to come see you?
Okay. And you're making it a great day for me, too, with those kinds of...
Thank you. Isn't that cool when it's reciprocal? Right? Like that? It works like that.
Yeah.
It is contagious.
Yeah.
So...
Again, you're going to have me pondering our conversation tonight for days after.
Good. Mission accomplished.
When bad things happen, how do you turn that around when bad things happen? What is a person to do when bad things happen to them?
And again, it's choices. And I'm not perfect at this, right? I'm a work in progress, and I have my good days and my other days in dealing with it. But for me, I have to stop and breathe and stop to think about back to the state of being kind of thing, right? And how do I want to deal with this? What do I want to do? How do I choose to respond? And if I stop and think about it rationally, I'd rather be in a good mood than in a not good mood. I don't know how many people would say, I'd prefer to be in a bad mood today, right? Not too many people do that. So then intentionally, what are we doing to positively deal with the situation that's happened with us? It's the old expression, there was an expression, today the barn burned down. Now I can see the stars.
Okay.
Right? The barn was a really nice thing to have, and it was a really important thing for us, but I've been missing the stars and the moon and the sky every night because the barn was in the way. That's changing. That's a little flip, if you will, to say, okay, what's the good side of this? What's the positive side of this? So that's what I try to do when I'm having some down spots is, how can I make it a great day?
Maybe do a slight shift here.
Okay.
When you were talking, I was listening to you about 90%, but then in 10% the background was amygdalic responses, the amygdala. Remember the amygdala?
It's hijacked, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you're talking about what you do making it a great day. What do you do to overcome
The amygdala.
the amygdalic response?
Well,
What do you do? Because this is going on out of your, without any help of your cortex.
right. So the amygdala is an interesting place to go, and
Yes.
and it happens really quick, just in a nanosecond, right?
Yes.
So if we react, we're reacting from amygdala, right?
Okay.
And so one of the things would be, how do we stop, take a breath, you know? Breathe. Sometimes it only takes a breath. Sometimes it takes getting up and walking around the building. To move from that emotionally hijacked first brain reaction to a more thoughtful, logical, objective reaction about how do I choose to be in this situation, what goes on. And it's not always easy, and we can't always do it, but it's good to practice, to try and be there. I use an expression a lot, react and regret. If we react to something, oftentimes we regret the way we reacted to it. But if we stop and breathe, and we can move to that new brain, which is more thoughtful, logical, objective kind of brain, says, who do I want to be and how do I want to represent myself in this situation, we generally don't regret that as much.
Did you see my hand go up and cover my mouth?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was embarrassed thinking about last night. This is a personal anecdote. My wife and I had a rhubarb, and I got mad at her. And we had the back and forth for a minute or so, and then I escalated and I yelled.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't do that. It takes a long time
amygdala.
for say, yeah. And had I not had the presence of mind or something to do what you suggested a moment ago, to take a deep breath, because then I remembered dwelling on it, that she became a little girl at that time, as sometimes I become a little boy, and she started the fight, and I know better, and I should have realized, hey, she's not quite rational right now. She's in the throes of her amygdala.
Right.
So I was going to go, my amygdala says, nail her before she kills you.
My amygdala can beat your amygdala, right?
So we had a little chat this morning, and we fixed it. And I'm still in process.
You know, it's interesting. Probably now a year ago, I had a situation, and my wife was sitting on the other side of the dinner table, and something happened, and you could just see tension rose between the two of us.
Yeah.
And our amygdalas got into play, right? And you know, who can talk loud, whatever. And so the way I deal with some of that sometimes, I just try and flee. I just try and get away from it, right? So I got up and I walked into the kitchen, and I kind of messed with some dishes.
I slept on the sofa last night. So.
But then it was funny because just even going into the kitchen and stopping and breathing allowed me to go to say, wait a second, it's the love of your life out there. This doesn't make sense. And I walked back out and I sat down and I said to her in a pretty darn calm voice, I said, why don't you tell me again why this issue is so important to you? And it was a different conversation.
Yeah.
Because the amygdala wasn't playing anymore.
Yeah.
But it's not always easy to do. No. And so, but we try. I mean, this thing, I have to share with you about this if I may.
Please,
Can I
please,
just,
of course.
So I use this expression a lot. It's on the bottom of my emails and everything and stuff like that. And so one of the people I work for, one of my clients, a dear lady, found this for me. She was walking in a city in Mexico, or a town in Mexico, and there was a street vendor who had this sign there. And if you notice, it's made out of Mexican license plates. These are all cut out letters of different Mexican license plates. And so she thought, oh, and she said, I thought of you. And then I went back to my hotel room and I was like, wait a second, how can I not get this for him? So she went back and bought it and brought it all the way back from Mexico to give to me. So even the idea that I've had that kind of impact on her, that when she saw this, she thinks of me, that's really cool, in my opinion. But so now I have this hanging in my house right near my front door on the inside of the house. So as I go down the stairs and go to leave the house, I get to reach up and touch it. And it helps me set intention. But that's who I want to be today. That's what I want to do. And it's very helpful for me. It's very helpful to help me set that intention as I walk by. So I think you try and make it a great day. I think I saw your license plate today.
Oh, yeah.
as you parked, right? That's a making it a great day kind of license plate,
Yeah.
right? I mean, how can you be unhappy with a guy who's driving that? I'm not going to say what it is. I don't want people to chase you down or anything.
It doesn't matter.
You know?
Yeah.
It was pretty sweet. So. Now everybody's wondering, all your listeners and viewers are wondering what your license plate is.
Friendly Don.
Friendly Don.
Yeah, Friendly Don. I got to the end of my street, leaving home, and there was a car coming from my left side, because my street ends at this cross street. And I saw the car coming, and I timed it okay, and I made a right turn, because I was going to make a right turn to the next corner. And the guy coming was going too fast, and he laid on a horn. And at that next corner, about 50 feet away, was a red light. He couldn't go anywhere anyhow.
Right.
And he honked at me. And I honked back. And I was so darn embarrassed.
That was an amygdala honk. I had one just recently in the grocery store I go to. The short story of this is, I said something to the cashier. Somebody else heard it, another customer heard it, and started yelling at me. We had very different political views.
Yeah.
And he started yelling at me, calling me names and doing all sorts of stuff. And I allowed myself to get amygdalaed. My voice went up. My volume went up. And I made a pretty sarcastic comment to him, which even some people around started clapping and everything about the comment. But I went home and I felt miserable. That's not who I want to be. It's not how I want to be. And I'd allowed myself to get caught up in that moment. I reacted and I regretted that. I went back to the store and I apologized. And I know where the guy lived. I mean, he's a neighbor. And I apologized to the cashier. I apologized to the manager of the store. And I even went down to the guy's house to see if I could apologize to him. And I knocked on the door and he didn't answer. And some people were mad at me because they said, he could have killed you, man. You went on his property and all that. And I said, but okay, fine, maybe that would have happened. But I said, I wanted to let him know that we might disagree on some stuff, but we should never have to treat each other like that. And I wanted to apologize for my behavior. And that's about that too.
Courageous.
Yeah, so we make mistakes, right? We have moments.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody's perfect. I think the Dalai Lama probably is not perfect. He probably says something every now and then, maybe that.
How do people react when you ask them about bad things happening? How do people react when you ask them that? How do you turn that around when bad things happen to you? What does a person react? What do they say to you?
Well, I have to share with you. So many people I say this to really seem to really appreciate it, and a number of people have started using it in their taglines and stuff now too, which I think is just wonderful and all that. But I had a lady one time who said to me, she goes, we're talking, and she says, I have to tell you, I don't like that expression you use. Mm-hmm. And I said, which one? She said, well, that make it a great day thing. And I said, well, why? What don't you like about that? And she goes, sometimes things just happen in your life and you have to accept them. And I said to her, well, you're right. But I said, how we choose to accept them is up to us. We can allow our cranky pants to come on and be in a bad mood all day, or we can try and pick to do something that fills me up. Sometimes if I feel like I'm in a bad mood, I need to go outside. Outside fills me up. Doing just about whatever I could outside, sweeping the driveway or going for a hike or a bike ride or kayak, whatever. All that fills me up. So what am I doing to make it a great day in lieu of the fact that this thing happened? But I told her, I said, well, I understand. And I said, I appreciate that. But if you'd prefer then, when I end my conversations with you, I won't say make it a great day. I'll say, well, go accept your day. Now, I have to say that even saying that kind of made a hairball come up in my throat. Go accept your day. I mean, wow. To me, that's kind of a victim thing, that the world is out to get me and, oh, woe is me. And, I choose not to live that way for me. I choose to try not to live that way anyway.
How did you get to be the way that you are? Was it your mom, your dad, or some other folks that had some kind of an important influence on you when you were a little fella? Who was it?
Wow, I'd love to know. Because I'm not sure I know where that all came from.
Sure.
And I'm not sure it happened as a kid. I mean, I'd like to think so. I remember I got mad at my brothers for trying to drown some rats in a garbage can and stuff. I mean, so I've always had a love of animals and creatures and the earth and stuff like that. So I think that's been around a long time. My activism, I would absolutely say, is some DNA I got from my mom. I found a picture recently that speaks to my heart. That is a picture of my mom in New York City protesting Hitler. And I carry that picture now with me when I go do some activist rally demonstration kinds of things, to carry that legacy on, if you will. So I think she's been a good lesson in that. And I'm just really trying to learn a lot of the other stuff from different people, nowadays, to help me understand how to be better and different and be a do-gooder.
Yeah. So we're running out of time, but we have time for a couple more questions. Awakening the dreamer, changing the dream. What's the dreamer?
Right. So that's what I was talking about that earlier in relation to the Pachamama Alliance, and so it's about awakening the dreamer in us, and getting us to change that dream away from consumption, away from consumerism, away from thinking that one race is better than another race and one gender is better than another gender, and so doing some work around that. And so there are those symposiums, and I know that you post my website and email and stuff. If people are interested in having me come do that workshop for groups of people, it's free. I do it for free, and I think it's lovely. It helps shift the energy a little bit in some people's heads to be more active around some of the things that are going on in the world. So yeah, that's what Awakening the Dreamer is about helping us to change the dream of the modern world.
I have all sorts of dreams, and the other night I had a gosh darn nightmare. Do I awaken that sucker?
Well, it depends. I mean, sometimes the nightmares, you can talk to a lot of people who believe, that the dreams and nightmares are there to teach us things.
Yeah.
And for us to pay attention to some of what's in those and learn from them. So it depends. Somebody wiser than me could interpret your nightmare for you and help you try and understand that.
There's nobody wiser than you. Sometimes I lie.
I don't even know. Now I'm starting to wonder about all the compliments, because there's a whole lot. I know, in the scheme of things, this much, right?
Yeah.
If that.
Be nice.
Couple things, though. I don't know how much time we have, so you're in charge of that. But
we've got a couple, maybe 2.5 minutes or so.
Okay, so can I just shout out a couple things
Please
that are really
do.
important to me
Of
while
course.
we have this moment?
I was going to ask you, but we would take more than 30 seconds, so go ahead.
I'm going to try and go. So one of the things in making it a great day for me that I do, that you know about and you participated in, is free hugging. So I started doing free hugging. It's really hard to not make it a great day when you're out there hugging a bunch of people, right? I mean, think about that. So,
and I've done it before.
And you have,
with
with me, and I appreciate that.
Say where it is, if you will, in Portland.
So, free hugging. There's Global Free Hug Weekend is Mother's Day weekend, and I'm in charge of Portland. Stand places with signs says free hugs. So on Mother's Day at 1 o'clock at Skidmore Fountain down near Saturday Market, we will be hugging it up, and there are a bunch of people. We totally change it. We change the energy there. All sorts of things start happening, and it just shifts everything to a wonderful place. If you're not in Portland, go on Facebook and just look up Global Free Hugs, and you'll see a Facebook page that talks about events all around the world that are going on, and you can potentially, wherever you are, connect with some of those. So it's just a hootenanny, man. It's just wow. It's just,
and what's happening around the Skidmore fountain is there are all sorts of people around, not just people hugging,
right,
but people doing all sorts of other things.
Yeah.
But it permeates the entire area, but there's human beings around there.
Yeah. I mean, there was one guy last year, I don't know if you remember him, but he was a street person, a homeless person, and he came up to me and he said, he goes, wow, he goes, would you guys even hug me? And I said, well, that's what we're doing. And he said, well, I haven't had a hug in years. I said, well, here. And I hugged him, and you could tell he hadn't hugged in years because he was kind of one of the sideways patter kind of shoulder things, like whatever. And he said, well, would anybody else hug me, who has the signs? And I said, give it a shot. So he started, you could just see his whole persona getting, feeling more powerful and feeling more alive and doing all that. And gosh, what a gift we could give him, that we could do that with him. And anyway, so we'll be doing that at 1 o'clock, Mother's Day, Skidmore Fountain in Portland.
I'm going to be there.
What's the date?
May 8th. It's Sunday, May 8th is Mother's Day, and 1 o'clock. And it's both days that weekend around the world, so it depends on where you are. Just connect with Global Free Hugs on Facebook, and they'll connect you. So anyway, that's a great thing. Another just real quick shout out. There is an opportunity for Break Free. It's an event called Break Free. It's all around the world. It's about some activity around trying to keep fossil fuels in the ground and not continuing to destroy the earth. And there's 6 locations in the U.S. The one closest to Portland is up at Anacortes, Washington. And the weekend of that is May 13th through the 15th. Anacortes, Washington, where there's a number of refineries and oil stuff going on up there. But if you just, again, Google Break Free, you'll find all sorts of information all around the country and the world about that. And I think it's a powerful opportunity to stand up and say there's better ways for doing stuff around here and getting rid of fossil fuels. So those are my 2 little shout outs. Thank you. I appreciate that.
They're wonderful. You have one more. You got about 10 seconds. You want to say something to the viewers directly? Look at that camera and tell them.
You know, there's a Native American proverb called about 7 generations. And one of the things I'd encourage all of us to do is think about everything we do in relation to its impact on 7 generations from now. We owe it to our kids and their kids.
Great. Thanks again for coming on.
It's a pleasure always.
And we got to say goodnight before they yell at me. Do we have time for a public service announcement or 2? To watch my shows on the web, Google Don Baham YouTube. There's hundreds of shows on through the years. All sorts of interesting characters I've interviewed. And I'm interesting too, and I'm a character. And the ACLU, without the American Civil Liberties Union, our civil liberties would be further down the tube than they are. Go to that website, check on the ACLU. And we got to end corporate personhood, take back our country.
Here.
MoveToAmend.org. Go to that one and amend the Constitution so that we say that corporations are not persons and money is not speech. All right. You want to learn more about humanists and humanism? You know I'm a humanist. Go to that website, theamericanhumanist.org, or the Portland, Oregon website, www.afd-pdx.org. And, oh man, thanks for watching. And remember KFC, please. Not Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable. To you too. To you too. And to you. And everybody in the control room. And anybody else. Thanks again. And I'll be talking to you again pretty soon. Good night.